One is a queen of the Valar. The other is the first elf to die in the lands of Valinor. And together they would weave the great history of Arda. Today on Nerd of the Rings, we cover Vaire the Weaver and her servant, Míriel. Vaire is one of the lesser known and less powerful Valar. She is the wife of Mandos, who is the doomsman of the Valar. His halls of awaiting are where the souls of the dead would dwell. Aside from being mentioned in a list of Valar, Vaire is mentioned just once more in the pages of the Silmarillion, after we learn about her husband Mandos. Vaire the Weaver is his spouse, who weaves all things that have ever been in time into her storied webs. And the halls of Mandos that ever widen as the ages pass are clothed with them. Vaire, whose very name means weaver, is responsible for recording all of history. It's important to note that she is merely recording, not writing the history itself or dictating the events of the world. Vaire would also have a great part to play in the story of Miriel, the wife of the High King of the Noldor, Finwe. While she would be born in Cuiviénen, she would come to Valinor with her husband. They would live together in Tirion, where we learn that Miriel would have great skill in weaving and needlework. Together, Miriel and Finwe would have a son in the year of the trees 1169, Feanor. While we know the act of bearing children is especially consuming for elves, we find in the case of Miriel bearing Feanor, it is an even greater burden. But in the bearing of her son, Miriel was consumed in spirit and body, and after his birth, she yearned for release from the labor of living. And when she had named him, she said to Finwe, "Never again shall I bear child, for strength that would have nourished the life of many has gone forth into Feanor." When Finwe seeks the counsel of Manwe, the Lord of the Valar says she should go to the houses of Irmo, the Master of Dreams, in his realm of Lorien, in hopes of recovery. However, as she lay in the lands of Lorien, her spirit left to the halls of Mandos, leaving the lands of the living in the year of the trees 1170. This development is shocking to both the elves and even the Valar, for no being had died in the Undying Lands before. Finwe is grieved by the loss of his wife, but also shamed that he should be the only elf in Valinor without a wife, and he greatly desired to have more children. Thus, a council is summoned by Manwe to decide whether it should be right that Finwe take another wife, for this situation had no precedent. As elves can be re-embodied and returned to life, it would cause great strife should Miriel later return, and Finwe were remarried. One man cannot have two wives. Thus, it is decreed that a spouse may only take another spouse should the first marriage be dissolved by the will of the dead, and the dead should be condemned to the halls of Mandos till the ending of the world. Finwe believes in his heart that Miriel will not return to the lands of the living, which Vaire herself confirms. "Nay," Vaire said suddenly, "the fear of Miriel is with me. I know it well, for it is small, but it is strong, proud, and obdurate. It is of that sort who, having said, 'This I will do,' make their words a doom irrevocable unto themselves. She will not return to life, or to Finwe, even if he waiteth until the aging of the world. Of this he is aware, I deem, as his words show. For he did not found this claim on his desire for children only, but he said to the king, 'My heart warns me that Miriel will not return while Arda lasts.' Of what sort the knowledge or belief may be that he would thus express, and whence it came to him, I know not. But Fea perceiveth Fea, and knoweth the disposition of the other, in marriage especially, in ways that we cannot fully understand." She goes on to say that perhaps if one of the queens of the Valar were to leave the world forever, then perhaps their spouse could judge Finwe, and that they should keep in mind that Finwe cannot follow his wife without doing wrong to his nature, nor without forsaking the duty and bond of fatherhood to his son Feanor. Thus, Finwe is now free to remarry, as Miriel does not wish to be re-embodied and rejoin her husband and son. Mandos would even summon her spirit to him, giving her another chance to change her mind. Yet she would remain silent and steadfast in her choice. Finwe would go on to marry Indis 2 years of the trees later, that is roughly 19 of our own years. They would have 4 children together, and the strife between them and Feanor would be well documented. But Finwe would always have the greatest love for Feanor, for he was the son of Miriel. Sometime during the next 250 years of the trees, Nienna, the Vala of Pity and Mercy, would come to Mandos, pleading that Miriel should be returned to life, so that she may experience not weariness, but hope. Mandos refuses, saying that Finwe would then have 2 spouses, which could not be. Still, Nienna pleaded, "Nay, let Miriel have the joy of her body, and of the use of its skills in which she delighted, and dwell not forever remembering only her brief life before, and its ending in weariness. Can she not be removed from the halls of waiting, and taken into the service of Vaire? If she cometh never thence, nor seeketh to walk among the living, why shouldst thou hold the doom set at naught, or fear for griefs that might arise? Pity must have a part in justice." But Mandos was unmoved, and while the body of Miriel yet lay preserved and at rest in Lorien, her spirit would remain in the halls of Mandos. Finwe would indeed be reunited with Miriel many years later. In the year of the trees 1495, he would be struck down by Morgoth as the Dark Lord came to steal the Silmarils, becoming the first elf to be slain in the Undying Lands. Miriel is reunited with her husband in the halls of Mandos, and she is glad at the meeting. Her sadness is lightened. Having learned of all that had befallen her family and the Eldar, Miriel apologizes to Finwe for not returning, saying, "I erred in leaving thee and our son, or at the least in not soon returning after a brief repose. For had I not done so, he might have grown wiser. But the children of Indis shall redress his heirs, and therefore I am glad that they should have being, and Indis hath my love. How should I bear grudge against one who received what I rejected, and cherished what I abandoned? Would that I might set all the tale of our people, and of thee and thy children in a tapestry of many colors, as a memorial brighter than memory. For though I am cut off now from the world, and I accept that doom as just, I would still watch and record all that befalls those dear to me, and their offspring also. I feel again the call of my body and its skills." Seeing that Miriel now wished to return to life, Finwe says to Vaire the Weaver, "Dost thou hear the prayer and desire of Miriel? Why will Mandos refuse this redress of her griefs, that her being may not be void and without avail? Behold, I instead will abide with Mandos forever, and so make amends. For surely, if I remained unhoused and forego life in Arda, then his doom will be inviolate." Mandos agrees, and Finwe's spirit would dwell in the halls of Mandos until the ending of the world, so that Miriel could once again return to life. Her spirit is released from the halls and travels to Lorien, returning to her body. She awakes as if from a dream and is refreshed, though she still does not wish to go back to her people. Instead, she goes to the house of Vaire, the wife of Mandos. She becomes the handmaid of Vaire, and fulfilling her promise to Finwe, she weaves the history of their people, the history of the Noldor. As always, I want to say a huge thank you to all my Patreon and YouTube supporters who make this channel possible. Tom DeBombadil19, Lissamy the Cinda, Rabbi Rob Thomas, Charles Leisure, CCDC Red Team, Joe Tepper, The Mighty Mim, Andrew Carlisle, Leo Vittori, Sky Carcass, Slide Belts, Dane Ragnarsson, Berto Berg, Graham Derricott, The Dark-Haired One, Wyland, Micah Wu, and Debbie. If you enjoyed the artwork in this video, check out the artists in the description to purchase prints of their great work for yourself. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on Nerd of the Rings.